one of the main characteristics of this stage of harmony is that there is an environment of non-binary thinking. The other day when I was driving, I called my dad, and my dad asked me about how my faith was because, I'm a religious person. And so I replied to my dad and I said, better than before, Dad. I think better than before. And my dad was basically expecting a binary answer. I'm either not doing well or I am doing well. And so after saying better than before, I explain a little bit more and I say, that there are times in which I strongly believe. There are times in which I want to believe. And there are other times in which I feel like my faith is weak. And on the worst days, I feel like I don't believe, and you could even call me an atheist. And a lot of people could be saying, oh, you are being heretical, Carlos, how can you say that? And I say, stop, that's it, okay? Because the experience of faith is a lot more dynamic than this binary model of, yes, you have a lot of faith, or no, you don't have a lot of faith, And any person who have actually wrestled in the daily life with their doubts, questions, and have faced crisis, they know that this feeling of having faith many times is not there. You know what I mean? It's not there. That doesn't mean that you don't believe in it, but you just don't feel it. You just don't feel it. And so in this stage of harmony, you are able to appreciate more the dynamism of life, the movements, the seasonality of life, in which it's not just 0 or 1, it's 0.5. You learn to appreciate the gray areas of life. And so the harmony stage is also a stage in which we come to terms with our own tradition. I have a friend, Dave Pock, that we were talking one day on a call, and he shared this, which I found really fascinating. He mentioned that Paul Ricoeur, who is a philosopher of hermeneutics, but hermeneutics of experience. Okay, so it's not about the biblical text; it's more, a school of thought that came. That is contemporary school of thought of philosophy, hermeneutics of experience. And Paul Ricoeur, which I have read some of his books, but not that one specifically. Dave Pogta told me that Paul Ricoeur talked about Kierkegaard, and he was talking about this idea of the second naivete. And so basically, what this means is that the first naivete is when you encounter a reality for the first time. You are naive about the bad things of that group, of that person, of that environment. And then as you go through these life experiences, you become really disappointed with the way things are, and so you start to see the flaws in your parents, the flaws in the community you are part of, the flaws in the system, in the government, and you can feel a lot of bitterness, a lot of disenchantment with life. And so that would be the first naivete. The first naivete dies because you are completely disappointed with life. But then I talks about this second naivete, which is the mark or sign of true faith, which means basically that you come back to these realities that disappointed you once, but this time you are coming to terms with that which formed you from a place of love, from a place of peace, from a place of harmony. Like you are able to see all the flaws and still appreciate your family and still appreciate your community. You basically are able to connect with these larger unities in life, with the things that form you, and not live a bitter life. Another aspect, another trait of the harmony stage is that you become more comfortable with mysteries. You become more comfortable with mysteries. And so I think that this is a huge one for me, because for the longest time, I think that I based a lot of my source of validation or peace and identity in intellectual certainty. Having the certainty about life, about things, and being able to, control and have everything very well delineated and in control. What happened? That didn't go well. This is very well explained by the tradition of the mystics, the Catholic mystics. In the medieval times, for example, they talked about this idea of the negative theology, which basically means we define God by talking about what we cannot say about Him. There is a quote by one of my favorite exegetists or writers, is G.K. Chesterton. I did my work, my undergraduate paper, main paper was on Chesterton, and he wrote this in his book Orthodoxy, in the chapter The Maniac, and he said the following: to accept everything is an exercise, to understand everything a strain. The poet only desires exaltation and expansion, a world to stretch himself in. The poet only asks to get his head into the heavens. It is the logician who seeks to get the heavens into his head, and it is his head that splits. Before the harmony stage, I was trying to relate to reality and human experience and all, and the otherness, the other people, the otherness, like the logician in this text, trying to put all the heavens and the complexity of reality into my mind, and I realized that my mind was splitting into halves because it was too much to contain. But the poet, who is basically a synonym for the mystic, the poet, the mystic, these people who see life as more transcendental than it actually looks, is able to contemplate reality, appreciate certain aspects of reality, but the poet or the mystic is okay with not being able to contain everything into their head. But that doesn't keep them from appreciating what they are able to actually get to know and understand.